Now that we've been teaching the course on technology and the future of medicine for 2 years, we have hundreds of hours of broadcast quality video. We thought it would be useful for the world out there for us to put together a DVD and video book of the highlights, the best parts. And Ross Lockwood, who is a PhD student who took the course, will narrate you through the excerpts that we have that will probably cause you to come back to the YouTube channel and watch lots more of the content from the course, and perhaps even take the course yourself. So Ross, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Solez, and a big thank you to our viewers. Perhaps the best way to introduce the course, Technology and the Future of Medicine, is through the eyes of the students taking it. We will present video excerpts from student reflections that we think capture the nature of the course. This first video is a reflection from Ashlyn Bernier, a PhD graduate of Lab Medicine Pathology, past president of the Graduate Students Association, and a recent MBA at the University of Alberta.
Every class had a different tone, so it wasn't the same all the way through. I really enjoyed not only the diverse and unique speakers that we had, but also the rest of the classmates. There was always a different group of people, it seemed, that would show up for any given lecture, and the half an hour of discussion that we would always have at the end of class was very interesting to hear the different ideas and thoughts on the lecture and viewpoints of the other students. So I felt that I got just as much out of hearing what they had to say as I got from hearing the different lectures. Really enjoyed just the many different perspectives that the different lectures that Dr. Solez brought into the class. Earl Waugh's lecture was really interesting and more philosophical, whereas Shauna Pandya's, I really enjoyed hers too, and it was a little bit more practical. So just a wide scope of different topics and different ways of thinking. You have a little bit of room to take some courses that you might be taking just for interest's sake rather than just to fulfill degree requirements. So I think this course would be ideal for anyone who's looking to try something a little different and unique. I think this course is unique not only at the school but globally. I don't think you're going to find a course like this anywhere else, and I think that students at the University of Alberta are really lucky to have this course available to them and should definitely take advantage of it, because it's not something you're probably ever going to have a chance to take ever again. You get exposed to a lot of different concepts and ideas like nanotech, like AI, like the singularity, like entrepreneurship. And I felt that we definitely had enough exposure to each of those topics for me to get a decent understanding of most of them. Some of the ideas and concepts we talk about in class are pretty complex, but I found that the lecturers did a really good job of translating their topics to a more general audience, which is the personal stories were probably my favorite part of the course. You know, Earl Waugh's story about growing up and getting bullied, and yeah, all of Jonathan White's stories were really interesting. I really enjoyed both the lecture he gave in class and the lecture on YouTube that he gave last year. It's really interesting to see people like Dr. White, who, you know, he's a physician, he's a surgeon, he's a teacher, but he also has all these interesting viewpoints and ideas on things that are quite peripheral to his career, I think, or his day job, I guess. So it was inspirational, I think, to see these individuals who, you know, haven't allowed themselves to just do their day job and be complacent and be put in the box, but to have develop all these interesting thoughts and come here and share them with us. So,
Technology and the Future of Medicine is a course celebrating a broad range of subjects, and we didn't feel the course would be complete without expressing our artistic side. In this next clip, Joel Crichton, accompanied by our very own Dr. Solez, perform the Singularity Song.
Here it comes, coming at you very soon.
I've got a half-life ticking and EKG readings that are beating the shore to dust. I've got a smartphone crystal ball, touch screen and all, but the screen won't touch. And it's this analog melody stuck in my head, and it's driving me insane, cause I got this chronic condition that'll suffer no remission, and I'm feeling that I ain't got time. Ooh yeah, yeah. Show me an android heart, an AI mind, and a spirit in the machine. Show me an optimistic and futuristic prognosis and what it means. Help me to see the future between the sutures. Will it be good or bad, or will we recognize a thing when we all pull the pin? Will it resemble what we had? It's a singularity. Yeah, it's a singularity. Beyond event horizon, will we wisen up or find a kind of glory? What's the story of the singularity?
What you hear is not a test, it's a singularity. A risk thing, isn't it? To envision it, or does the future look rather dissonant? Robots now, but what about later? Will it be like Terminator? Or are we headed for utopia? Well, follow me and I'll show ya.
Voices from every field across the world are coming to ya. Attend the class or watch from home, it's coming to ya. Kim Solez has the contacts and he's bringing them to ya. It's coming to ya, the future's coming to ya. So come to the future.
Technology and the Future of Medicine. Lab MP 590.
The course is made up of a diverse set of presenters from many different fields. Dr. Earl Waugh is a grounding force in the course, and the next video comes from his lecture entitled Evil as a Treatable Disease. Dr. Waugh is a classroom favorite because he unabashedly opposes some of the notions that we explore in technology and the future of medicine.
As I read this book, I thought back to when I was a boy in a one-room school in Ontario, and we lived in a very small village. We lived about a quarter of a mile down the road, and about a mile down the road were three boys that I went to school with. Billy Fluter, to put it in the vernacular, was a bugger. He had it in for me. He was a farmer's son. He was strong. He was tough, and he thought I was a nerd and an absolute wimp. And so on the way home, he would prove this as often as he could by beating me and pummeling me and leaving me in the ditch. So I came to believe in my youthful mind that Billy Fluter was evil incarnate. And so I encountered evil very early. And I grew up in a very, I would call it, Christian religious home in which evil was often cited as one of the problems in the world. And so I had the language and the narration that provided me with an identification for Billy Fluter. Unfortunately, that's not the end of the story. Because every time that Billy Fluter beat me up, I would go home and I would tell my mother, you know, I wish that guy were dead. He's absolutely evil. As far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see him dead. 2 weeks later, he was. He and his family were on their way to church in Hamilton, and they went up over the rise of the hill, and a car was passing, and there was a head-on collision, and Billy Fluter went right through the windshield, and that was the end of Billy Fluter. Well, that wasn't the end of it for me, and I think you can see the problem that I had to face then, because the school, of course, had a memorial service, and the school had to remember Billy Fluter. And I was torn. On the one hand, I didn't know whether I had some kind of magic that said, well, you know, Billy Fluter, I want Billy Fluter dead, and it happened. And that kind of threw me into a loop. And then on the other hand, I had to admit that I kind of felt sorry for him. That, you know, if in fact I had had something to do with doing him in, that I really hadn't meant it that way. That really all I wanted him to do was to get a broken arm or something so he couldn't beat me up. That's about all I wanted to do. But so when I used the kind of murder language and all that stuff, it was more, you know, breast pounding and that kind of stuff. But that wasn't the end of it then, because you see, even though I felt empathetic, we had to meet with the parents. And the parents were devastated, obviously, right? I mean, a son like this you don't get very often. And here was two people whose world had just collapsed. And I felt complicit. I tell you this story because when I read what Simon had to say, I didn't know whether he was speaking tongue-in-cheek or whether this was a genuine piece of work. Because, you see, empathy is not something that you can just find sitting alone by itself. Nor do I think you find evil sitting alone by itself, that you can, you know, hone in on it. Now, I know we always use Hitler and the Holocaust and things like that as primary examples of evil. But, you know, there are people who even see Hitler in some kind of context. And when you do that kind of thing, then you see how messy this whole area becomes. So when I see the science of evil, the first thing I think of is, well, I don't believe this at all. I just don't believe it. So you have to understand that I'm coming at this book with a big, huge gob of doubt, right from the word go, because my own experience of empathy and evil is a rather convoluted and difficult one. And so to argue that you can move from one thing into the other is, you know, for me, just a bit much.
You may be scratching your head at this point, wondering what exactly is covered in technology in the future of medicine. Our next student, Nicholas Lee, gave a presentation that is a great summary of some of the topics that we cover in the course: the technological singularity, artificial intelligence, and the social impact of exponential change in the world today.
Alrighty, so my name is Nicholas, as you guys already know, and I'm a part of this class, and I'm a general science student, so I don't really have any specialized views on anything yet, I guess. So I just did a broad view of the singularity, the good, the bad, and the singularity, the potential threats and benefits of a superior intelligence. So, what exactly is the singularity? The singularity is the ways of achieving a superior intelligence through technological means. So, as we can see with Moore's law over here, the rate of computational processing speed is increasing by like doubling every year or every 2 years. So, essentially, we are on route towards, cheaper technologies that can create superior intelligence. Alrighty. Some cool examples here. As you can see over here, just in 25 years, we have managed to minimize the size of storage by, like the size of my thumb from being like the size of my hand, I guess. And it's about, 10 times more capable of storing capacity. That little SD card can carry about 64 gigs to like 120 gigs, where that huge floppy disk can only carry about 500 megabytes. So yeah, just showing you some exponential gains of technology. Another example here is just a supercomputer. You can see that it has greatly doubled in terms of memory, processing speed, storage, and it's even cheaper than what it used to be. And that was just in a matter of 10 years, so that's pretty crazy if you think about it. And just one more example here, just a cool look. The Mac Pro was about $1,600, and it was the size of, my chest, I guess. And now we have an iPhone that's the size of your hand. It can go everywhere with you. You can film, you can listen to music, and you can stream videos and pretty much do everything that that computer could do. So, how does this exactly relate to the intelligence? Well, in order to, first make superior intelligence, we've got to define what intelligence is. And so, yeah, intelligence is pretty different among cultures, as you can tell. Asian people tend to rely more on memory capability, analytical abilities, memory skills, carefulness, and modesty in terms of intelligence. And African American people tend to emphasize intelligence with, social competencies, being able to talk with each other. So we don't really have an exact definition of what intelligence is per se. So I like to present it with the meme over there. Asian parents are pretty strict in terms of studying. So Facebook, why don't you Facebook and study, which is pretty funny. And then there's Martin Luther King just conversing with his fellow mates. So yeah. So, but in general terms, most people tend to associate intelligence with, the, combination of the two. So yeah. But at the same time, once again, we don't have a clear, definite answer of what intelligence is. So how are we supposed to define a superior intelligence exactly? Well, machine researchers believe that superior intelligence is rather a form of optimization power. So they'll just be better than us in every way. They'll be able to do things faster, quicker, cheaper, in every way. So that's essentially what's going to be happening. Some potential ways that we might achieve this superior intelligence might be through artificial intelligence, or the enhancement of our own intelligence through software integration or even nanobots. Okay. So then, as we go into enhancement of the mind, some potential benefits that this may cause is that we'll be able to enhance our human capital per se. We can essentially, increase the overall ability of humans by, making them faster, smarter, and stronger in all ways. Therefore, increasing our work abilities and everything like that. What else is there? Let's see. It also prevents the threats of having a rogue AI. I don't know if you guys seen WALL-E or not, but this is the antagonist of the story, and he's essentially programmed so that humans cannot go back to Earth because they felt like it was a bad idea, but then later they realized that they could go back, and he does everything they can to stop them. Thankfully, it's a Pixar movie, and everything has to end well, so he doesn't succeed. Alrighty. Another potential method would be through nanobots once again. We can essentially inject these nanobots into our bodies, and then they'll integrate themselves with our brains, suggestively, and they'll do the exact same thing. They'll increase our human capital in a way and make us smarter and stronger and have us all communicate essentially together as well. Like, how we have iPhones, we connect to each other through the internet and Facebook and all that, but we'll just have that in our minds, I guess, and then we'll all be linked somehow. Alrighty. But at the moment, supposedly, researchers believe that at the rate that we're going at technology, or the rate that technology is increasing, we won't be able to really reach these exactly before we reach an artificial intelligence. So exactly what I'm saying here is that other technologies will probably precede these enhancement of intelligence technologies, such as the example of an artificial intelligence. It'll probably be a lot easier to make a framework off of that and then embed it into our systems, but we must probably create the artificial intelligence before we can begin to start enhancing our own intelligence. So some potential benefits of this artificial intelligence is that they have increased computational resources. Our brains are essentially limited to 85 to 100 billion neurons, and that's just due to our biological size of our brains. Whereas computers can essentially just have a warehouse full of brain sizes, I guess. You could just have an endless amount of neurons computing at the same time, shown by this. That's example, I guess, that I made up. You can have way more volume in a sense. They're also better than us in communication speed. The axon can travel at 75 meters a second, which is about as fast as we can go physiologically. Like we top out about that. Whereas for computers, you can just switch out the software and we can just keep upgrading due to Moore's law, and then it'll just keep changing as we go. Right here. Increased serial depth. What I mean by this is that the brain, due to the slow firing speed of the neurons, we essentially have our brains networked in a parallel fashion, so then they can only compute up to 100 sequential operations per second. So that's kind of limiting, but with computer artificial intelligence, we can essentially reach a pattern parallel algorithm augmentation, where it just recognizes everything that's going on and is able to, collect a way higher amount of information and then be able to operate at a way higher rate. Okay. And they're also a lot easier to duplicate. You can merely just copy, your software from one to another and transport it and just do this over and over again. So you can tell from the Matrix, Agent Smith is an AI and he just copies himself endlessly as easy as possible. You can't really do that with humans. That's kind of the one limitation, but yeah. Another thing is the editability. Once again, it's really easy just to switch it out. Once we find new technology to improve it, we can just swap it out just like that. And if it's like a human intelligence enhancement, we have to deal with like the neurosurgery and everything like that, and a lot of complications involved with that. All right, and one last thing that they're better than us at is goal coordination and rationality. What I mean by this is that you can pretty much just program the artificial intelligence to do whatever you want it to do, like just optimize it to however you want, and whereas humans aren't exactly as easy to program and are a little bit more messy in terms of getting to the place that they would like to be. Shown by this picture, we're a little more not as stable and aren't able to, progress as easily as machines are. All right. So then what exactly, oh wait, sorry, missed this one. Here's just another picture showing the computational resources that fast supercomputers have compared to the human brain. You can see already they already have a huger size in terms of volume and capabilities of having resources to work with. One benefit that humans have, though, is that their efficiency is quite a lot greater than ours, or than that of robots and machines. It's about 20 watts, whereas you can see an iPad is only like a fraction of our size and is about 2.5 watts. And yeah, the fastest supercomputer is about 9.9 million watts, so it's quite a bit. So if machines are better than us in every way, what exactly is it in it for us? We'll be able to work with the machines and create this perfect utopia where we'll work together and increase the mankind, have a great human capital and everything, and potentially explore space and everything. Or will we eventually be the cause of a Terminator-like situation where robots will take over and the ultra-intelligent machine could be the last invention that man need ever make? But yeah. At the same time, a researcher at the Machine Intelligence Research Institute believes that this is all due to an anthropomorphic bias, suggesting that we give human properties to that of non-human beings. So, let's say if I were to try and optimize myself to make more money, that the robot will, try to do the same, but that's not necessarily true. Another thing here, an intelligence explosion is another theory that might happen, is to the point where a machine is able to constantly upgrade its own source code over and over again to the point where it's just, it'll exponentially grow and then just become way better than us in every way. That's kind of a scary thought, but yeah. That same researcher from before suggests a friendly AI where we will be able to control the intelligence explosion. By developing a friendly AI, we can essentially just minimize the rate at which they may potentially upgrade themselves, and then, potentially work with them to improve that of mankind. Okay. But overall, these are just theories that aren't exactly 100% sure of what to happen. These are some questions to consider, however. What motives will super AIs exactly have in terms of the future? Like, will they want to work with us, or will they potentially do their own thing? How should enhanced intelligence be regulated? Should we essentially just let it be like Wikipedia and let everyone have access to it and do whatever they'd like? Or should we have, a government intervention where only a select few can have it? Will an AI be rational exactly? What I mean by this is if, let's say, a man were to steal some food for his family and he were to face a jury, most of the time I'm guessing the jury would be able to empathize with him and then give him a lesser reasoning or lesser sentence, whereas an AI will see what is right and wrong and then essentially just give him the full sentence. What will happen to identity? We can already see right now that we're already having troubles with, describing our own identity. Like we don't really know who we are still yet, and just throwing machines and human cross interfaces together just really mixes it up a bit. If we have a person who's half machine and half human, well, he might not be considered a human anymore, and there might be this form of roboticism, I guess you could say. So just another form of racism, I guess. What will happen to our workforce exactly? Since we are already beginning to see that, robots are taking over the workforce. They can do stuff a lot faster and quicker than we can. So it's quite scary. We don't know exactly what's going to come from the singularity. We can already see in China that the workforce is already beginning to become replaced by that of robots. Foxconn, you guys have already heard about this before, but they are replacing 10,000 of their workers with, 10,000 new workers or robots to take over. They can essentially do the job a lot cheaper and a lot faster than most people can. So if this is already on our way towards a singularity, then, what's to come of the future? If, this is already happening. We're only at year 2013, I guess. Another picture here is just the way that the world's changing at this rate. 8 years ago, you can see that we don't have any kinds of cameras or computers or anything with us, but now, just in 8 years, everyone has an iPhone, is connected all the time, has pictures, videos, and music recorders at their disposal pretty much everywhere they go. Okay, so then what exactly is in store for us at the singularity? I decided to reference it to that of a quantum physicist, I guess you could say, of that of Schrodinger's cat, where we have a cat that is not dead or alive exactly, but a state of both. So I can relate this to the singularity as we don't exactly have a clue of what's to come. We can just come up with predictions of what may happen in the future, or what may happen from the future, or whether it be beneficial or negative. So we're in a sense of limbo, I guess you could say, and then we'll only figure out once we open the box to find out whether see if that's beneficial or not. Yeah, that's pretty much my presentation right there.
There are few courses at the university level that embrace brainstorming about future technologies and how they'll impact our lives in the future. This next segment introduces our youngest faculty member, Dr. Shauna Pandya, who leads the class through a brainstorming session to inspire students with the notion that their ideas are fundamental to technological innovation in the coming decades.
Alrighty, so thank you all for playing ball, for rearranging yourselves. Welcome. So how many of you were here last time, saw me lecture, and how many of you are brand spanking new? Okay, it's a good proportion. All right, so last time we heard about building a culture of innovation and disruption, but talk is cheap, words are wind. Today we're going to put what we learned last week into practice, and by we I mean you, and I'm going to sit back and watch, so it's pretty easy for me. No pressure to you guys or anything. So we're going to do this in 3 parts. So the whole theme of this, as I told you last time, my thesis is The world is amazing, and there's potential in everything and everyone. And that's what I want you to keep in mind as we go through the next hour in a little bit. And we're going to concentrate on making things better. Now, for those of you who weren't here last time, I talked about the bottle. In fact, I probably ranted about the bottle a little bit. And what I mean by the bottle is the example I used was the ketchup bottle analogy, in that the Heinz ketchup bottle, or any bottle, is inefficiently designed because it will not allow you to access 100% of the product that's inside. Now, I rant about this, but a group of students at MIT actually took this one step further and said, well, why not do something about it? Re-engineer the material to have minimal cohesion with the ketchup. And as you can see, I won't go through the video again this time. This is the old way, ketchup stuck at the bottom. New way, ketchup pours right out like water. The other example we looked at last time was re-engineering or reinventing the light bulb, the bottle as a light bulb. And what you see here is in fact not a light bulb, but a bottle filled with water, filled with bleach, and channeling and refracting sunlight to provide as much, or if not more, light as a light bulb. So that's the mind frame I want you to walk in today's session with. We're going to do this in 3 parts. So I believe that innovation comes from people, comes from ideas, and that comes from a clear plan from taking ideas into reality. And we're going to make this your challenge for this session. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start off with people. And by that I mean you're going to introduce yourselves to each other, get to know each other, what you offer, what you bring to the table, what's interesting about you, what disciplines you're from. And that's where we'll start. From there we're going to tackle challenges. I'm going to give you a specific topic to focus on. Your idea is to learn the art of brainstorming, by which I mean come up with crazy, wild ideas, do so in quantity, do not hold back, do not filter yourselves. And then we're going to work on taking a single idea, narrowing down all the ideas you've come up with, and making that idea a reality. Part 1 is people. So what I want you to take the next 12 minutes to do is I want to pass out markers, I want to pass out post-it notes, and I want you to write your name and then talk to me about up to 1 to 3 things. And then you're going to spend about a minute talking to your neighbor, and you're going to tell them about one of those 3 things, or they're going to ask you about one of those 3 things. After a minute, you're going to stop talking and start listening to your neighbor, and you're going to ask them about one of the 3 things they have written down. We'll switch a couple of times, as much as time allows, but the point of this exercise is I want you to break down barriers and figure out what you each bring to the table and just get to know each other, okay? So wandering around, I caught some bits and pieces and glimpses of conversations. I heard that someone was a state champion tennis player. I learned that someone played rugby. I learned that we have seasoned pediatricians, doctors in the making, undergraduate students, comp sci students, researchers, scientists, the whole gamut. Who here learned something that was surprising or exciting to them? Anyone? Handful of you. It's good. Who here learned something completely about a topic that was new to them? Anyone? Again, a handful. All right. So who here felt like they needed longer to talk to the other people? Okay, nearly all of you. So that's the point. But now you kind of have this curiosity keeping you going as you go into the next part of this workshop. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about ideas. And before we do that, I'm going to lay out the ground rules. The points of this workshop, and specifically idea generation, I want you to get a handle on brainstorming, thinking from a completely different perspective, and how to take that first step from what seems like a pie-in-the-sky fairy tale idea to a here and now idea that can happen tomorrow. Okay? So, disclaimer is these rules aren't my own. They're from a design firm called IDEO. They do everything from kids to work with Disney to medical devices. And the IDEO rules for brainstorming, so defer judgment. So don't say, oh, that's silly, or that defies the laws of physics. For now, everything's fair game. Encourage wild ideas, encourage each other. So if someone says, well, I think that the next investment in research at the U of A should be into spaceships, you should say, well, not just spaceships, you should say photon-powered laser spaceships that can travel faster than the speed of light. Okay? Stay focused on the topic. So by that I mean don't go all in different directions. And that goes down to the next one, having one conversation at a time. So you'll feel really pulled to start going in many different areas, different paths. I encourage that, but keep focused on one person in your group who's talking at the time, because you might actually get another inspiration from that. Be visual, draw if you want. Art is encouraged. Do we have any artists here? Any art students? Can anyone draw a stick man? Great, okay. Go for it. And then go for quantity. So your challenge is to, I'm going to distribute poster boards in a second here. And what I want you to do is in groups of 5, so divide yourselves up in groups of 5. I want you to take whatever post-it notes you have. We're going to pass out more if you need them. And pick one of the topics I'm going to put up here in a second. And your mission is to cover up your poster board. I've seen it done, but not for a while. So you guys might be a record-breaking group, okay? So what I want you to do, divide yourselves up in groups of 5. Pick one of the following topics, okay? So you have things that really should exist, pet peeves, the greatest challenges in the world, the greatest trends or technologies in the world, or ways to positively impact 10, 100, 10,000, or 1 million people. Okay, note I say positively, so maybe stay along that trend, okay? So while you guys redistribute yourselves in groups of 5, you're going to have about 15-ish minutes for this. We're going to distribute out the poster board for you guys to put your post-it notes on. So where's my first group of 5? All right, so we have a group of 5 here. This is your poster board. You guys have enough post-it notes for now, but I'll give you some more in a sec.
Here, we'll move around.
So poster board, poster board, poster board. Do you guys need poster board?
Yes.
Perfect. Now,
I think you need one.
all right. So I'm going to ask you to just pause your work for a second. Don't worry, it wasn't all for naught. So I want you, over the next 20 minutes, sift through the ideas you've come upon, pick one of your wildest, craziest ideas, and that will be the foundation for your business. Specifically, I want you to answer the following questions. What is your idea? What are you selling? What need does it serve? What problem does it solve? Who's going to use it? Who's going to buy it? I urge you to give this thought a lot of consideration, because those two aren't necessarily always the same thing. So parents might be the buyers, but kids might be the users if you're talking about a toy. Or if you're talking about a textbook, schools might be the buyers, students might be the users. Okay? How are you going to make money? Because remember, you're trying to build a business here. What threats and what hurdles will you face? What external help do you need? Who can help you? Who do you know, whether it's someone that you need for graphic design, website design, anything like that? The fun part, what is your product, your company called? Do you have a logo? That's if you have time. And what is the first step that you need to take today to be able to achieve this, or to bring it one step closer to reality? Okay? So if that's a little bit too much, I've come up with business plan Mad Libs. So at Company X, we've created product name and description because of problem. Designed for user, it'll appeal to buyer because of value add. We anticipate hurdle and will overcome them by mitigation strategy. Some of our strengths include list your assets in your networks, and we're going to make money by list your business model. The first step we need to take today to achieve this is action plan, okay? So I'm going to leave this up here. You can use this as your template. If you want, I can flip through this to the questions if you find that easier. You have about 20 minutes, and then we're going to spend the next 20 minutes going through the groups presenting. You'll all have about 5 minutes to present, and then we'll wrap up, okay? And go. Say biological.
Catheters.
Okay, cool.
Well, how pick up? So we do have a lot. It's a selected person. Oh, okay. See, that's so it's like
Alrighty, everyone. So I'm going to ask you to just finish your sentence that you are speaking right now, the sentence here. And we'll get back to the main group, and what you're going to do is you're going to present. All of you are going to come up, and maybe one of you is going to be the appointed rep. Maybe all of you are going to talk about your company. You're going to have 5 minutes, and that includes questions. So if there's time afterwards, we'll grill you for a little bit, maybe a minute or so. And without further ado, I invite you guys to take it away. Does anyone want to volunteer to go first? All right, you guys have been voluntold.
Hello,
my
name's Matt, and I'm here to represent our new company, Selective Telecommunications for You, or for us, actually. So you can call us STFU. We're brand new on the scene here, and we'd like to introduce our new product, the Subtransmuter 3000 Mark 1AB. So this is the newest thing that's going to be on the line. What it is, you know, you're sitting in a cafeteria, you're trying to talk to your friend who speaks a different language, someone over there is chewing with his mouth wide open, it's really bad. How are you going to solve this? We're here for you right now. What this device is its purpose is it's got a couple things. Number one, it's a translator. It even has subtitles below the person while they're speaking, so you can learn the language. Number two, selective muting of people, so you can just click a button. Don't have to hear that guy chew with his mouth open anymore. He's chewing cornflakes, those are the worst. And number three, it's awesome. It comes in all shapes and colors, so you're good to go. Anyway, so what this solves, it solves language barriers, of course, increases communication, so you can chat with all your friends, even if they're in other countries with different languages. Increases focus. If you're working on a big project in the library and you know that one guy's typing away really loud, you can mute that as well. It's great for that. Learning capabilities go up because you know you can read more, see more, well, hear more, I guess is probably a more accurate representation of that. We kind of bridge the gap between pet peeves and new technologies because this is getting rid of pet peeves. Maybe if that person's shuffling behind you, you can just turn around, do a quick mute of that. So that's a big deal, especially if you've ever gone through Hub. And then, of course, the cultural misunderstandings will go down because we've worked on eliminating that through our translation services in the Subtransmuter 3000 Mark 1AB. You guys want to? Okay, I'll keep going. So who wants this? I think this is pretty self-explanatory in that everyone wants this. We'll probably market it to students and more adult level people because it won't be free, so you know little kids can't buy it, but they'll want to use it as well. So essentially every single person in the world will want to use this. Maybe your grandpa can't hear very well anymore and you speak a different language than him. You can increase the volume for you while translating with big fonts so he can read it too. It's great, and your neighbor next door's loud rock music isn't going to interfere. So that's wonderful. Everyone, like we said, and students, again, you're in that library, you're going to want this guy right here. So how are we going to sell this? I had proposed that we animate Billy Mays to have him do infomercials, but we decided against that. What we're going to do is we're going to have a bunch of just, you know, nice, classy commercials, kind of the iTunes styles one of us mentioned. And, you know, as soon as we get funding, as soon as people see this, they're going to be just chucking money at us. So we might be going to Dragon's Den sometime soon, so keep an eye on your TVs for that. We will be passing around a collections bin at the end of this presentation, so if you want to start us off, that's awesome. Number 5, some problems we might have. First off, it doesn't exist. It's a minor problem we have. After that, it's something that it will probably have to involve some wireless technology, otherwise it'll be wildly inconvenient to have a bunch of wires connected to everyone. So there's the fact that you could be hacked into, it could be misused. We have child and domestic abuse. You know, baby doesn't stop crying, do that. Go watch the news, come back, the baby's, you know, not as happy. Anyways, number 6, who will we need help from? a lot of people. First off, of course, we'll need investing, we'll need capital. We'll also need engineers, specifically of computer technology, because we are not that, or at least I don't think we are. Yeah, okay, so no, we will need that, as well as, probably there might be some biological mixing in of stuff, so we'll need some physiologists and whatnot. Might hire Kim Solez, so if he's up for it, we'll shoot him an offer. Our first step, we had two conclusions. Number one was book a meeting with Dragon's Den, but more importantly, we need to learn about what it is that we're actually doing. We need to learn about the technology now that's kind of close to it. We need to know about the physical properties of things that we're trying to manipulate, like sound and biology and whatnot. And then we need to, once we've learned, we need to get money, we need to get going, and look for the Subtransmuter 3000 Mark 1 AB on shelves any day now. Thanks, you guys, for your time.
So when you put a bunch of medical students and a PhD biologist, you get something a little bit more like technical. So we came up with, and like very specific, so we came up with creating a biologic catheter. So for those who may not know, like a catheter is a way to drain urine from the body. But it is usually a necessity in a lot of hospital situations, but it also is one of the top causes of infections and hospital-based infections and prolonged stays. So we've decided to create a biologic catheter, either using other bacteria that beat the ones that currently infect the catheter, as well as our own body's defenses, and kind of channeling that into the catheter to beat the offending culprits. So this would be marketed to hospitals with the idea that paying a little bit more for this, because a catheter is just a really cheap piece of rubber right now, but paying a little bit more for this would eliminate longer hospital stays, and for a hospital stay can run anywhere from like 1,000 to 2,000 a day to maybe close to 10,000 if you're requiring a lot of interventions. So it's kind of a short-term cost for long-term relief. And then I'll pass it on for, want to talk about the hurdles?
Sure. Yeah, some hurdles that we came up with when developing this catheter is that there's so many different types of bacteria and that they mutate constantly. So it's kind of difficult to create one set of defense line that'll work for a specific amount of period or time. Another defense that another hurdle that we came upon was the cost for research and development for something like this. We have no idea how to start or how to estimate what kind of costs would be involved in something like this. So that would be another hurdle. And just the third one would be trying to get hospitals to accept it once something like this is developed, and allowing us to experiment on patients or conduct trials, because if there's a possibility for patient harm, then sometimes it's harder to get the trial approved.
Sure. So I guess I'll talk about the advantages. So advantages of something like this, I mean, hospital infections are huge causes of patient morbidity, as well as increased hospital stays. So decreasing infection helps decrease the hospital stays, saving tons of money, as well as increases patient well-being. So all the times that bad outcomes like dying or getting like a longer hospital stay happens, that can be prevented, and we can decrease healthcare costs, which would be important as well. Yeah.
And we need help of microbiologists and genetic engineering, and we will be needing synthetic biology for the investment in research. So, and we have to invest a lot of money in research first. So we need to arrange money for the research purposes, and we gave name to this product as SynCath. SynCath, it's a synthetic biology made catheter, so it will help to reduce infections.
I think our first thing that we need to do is determine what the bacteria, the top common bacteria are that infect, and how they do so, and then look out and see what kind of defenses are out there to eliminate those problems.
Perfect.
Shauna has a way of inspiring students by practicing what she preaches. She has boundless optimism for future technologies and sees how new technologies can have a big impact in today's world. As a graduate of Singularity University, in addition to her experiences as a medical student at NASA and as a neurosurgery resident at the University of Alberta, she paints a vivid picture of what we can look forward to in our lifetimes.
Before I get going, I want to start with a question. Has anyone ever just woken up and thought to themselves, what a time to be alive? At least one person, 2 people, 3 people, excellent. It's true. And I want to start by capping off the previous week in science. Now, there's this website called I Freaking Love Science. I might have euphemized that second word there, that second F. But in the past week alone, the amount of advancements we have made as the human race, scientists have announced that they have grown new teeth with complete roots using only adult human gum tissue. NASA's rover on Mars identified clay containing many chemicals required for life in the first drilled sample, signaling that the planet once had a wet and hospitable environment. Physicists at CERN confirmed that the particle discovered last July in their LHC, their Large Hadron Collider, is in fact indeed the Higgs boson particle. A new study found that 14 adults have been functionally cured of HIV. When I was a kid, even when I started medical school, HIV was a life sentence, or at best a chronic disease. Functionally cured. It's pretty amazing to be alive.
Technology and the Future of Medicine is an innovative course that tackles big challenges that face the students and future graduates of today. The video excerpts we've presented are just a fraction of what's freely available online. And our goal is to continue bringing our viewers new and interesting content so that they can share our optimism for the future. Back to you, Dr. Solez.
Thanks, Ross. That concludes our video overview of the course. We hope we've inspired you to learn more about technology and the future of medicine. And there's a lot more video content you can watch simply by going to YouTube and searching for my username, Kim Solez. Thanks very much for watching.